My name is Sarah Chen, and for years, everyone saw me as the family failure. My younger sister Emma made sure of that. She loved pointing it out, especially when other people were around to hear it. The worst time was at her company party. We were on a fancy rooftop in the city. Emma looked amazing in her designer dress, talking to all her work friends. I stood in the corner, holding a soda, wearing my best blue shirt and old pants. "Sarah fixes broken stuff," Emma announced loudly. "You know, like microwaves and coffee makers. Anything that stops working, she can take it apart." Everyone laughed. I didn't think it was funny. I've heard worse things about myself before. But something about how she said it that night really hurt. She made me sound like a joke. I was about to leave when something amazing happened. The doors opened and in walked Victoria Sterling. She's the CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in our area. Everyone knows who she is. She looked around the room, then her eyes found me. To everyone's shock, including Emma's, she smiled big and said, "Sarah. I was hoping you'd be here." The whole room went quiet. Emma's mouth dropped open. That's when I learned that sometimes your reputation speaks for itself before you ever have to say a word. I wasn't always the family disappointment. Once, I was the star. I had the best grades, got a scholarship to college, and was accepted to law school. My parents were so proud they put my acceptance letter on the fridge like a trophy. Emma was younger then, still had braces, and always followed me around. She used to tell me, "I want to be exactly like you when I grow up." That didn't last long. When I turned 22, everything fell apart. Mom got really sick. Dad tried to hide how bad it was, but I could tell. I delayed starting law school to stay home and help take care of her. Then Mom died peacefully one night, and suddenly I wasn't going to be a lawyer anymore. Instead, I was the one dealing with medical bills and cooking frozen dinners for a dad who barely spoke anymore. Emma didn't handle Mom's death well. She threw herself into school and dance classes, pretending everything was normal. I don't blame her. We were just two young women trying to survive in a house that felt empty. I never went back to law school. My scholarship ran out. I got a job at a front desk to help pay the bills. When Dad started drinking because of his sadness and our house started breaking down, leaky pipes, electrical problems, broken air conditioning, I did what I had to do. I learned how to fix things. You'd be surprised how good it feels to hold the right tools and figure out what's wrong with something that nobody else can make work. I watched online videos. I read instruction books. I made lots of mistakes and broke 2 hair dryers before I got it right. But after a while, fixing things wasn't just about our house anymore. It became my job. I quit the front desk and started my own repair business. Just me, a used workbench, and a big blue sign that said, "Chen's Fix-It Shop," that I painted myself. It wasn't fancy, but it was honest work. Every time I gave back a working toaster to an elderly lady who didn't want to buy a new one, I felt something that law school never gave me. I felt peaceful. But my family didn't see it that way. At holiday dinners, I was the other daughter. The one who worked with her hands while Emma impressed everyone with her corporate job, her perfect outfits, and her professional social media pages. Emma worked for Victoria Sterling, the kind of boss who gets written about in magazines. Emma talked about Victoria like she was royalty. I didn't mind being ignored at family dinners, but Emma made it hard to stay invisible. She'd say things like, "At least I didn't waste my education fixing broken appliances." Or, "Some of us have clients who aren't senior citizens." She always said these things with a smile, the kind that dares you to get upset so she can call you too sensitive. I never took the bait. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that over the years I'd quietly built up a good client base. One of them, through a company that handled shipping and storage, had a name I recognized, Sterling Tech Solutions. That's right, Victoria's company. They sent us broken devices from their warehouse. Nobody from the top ever contacted me directly, but the pay was good and the work was steady. It helped me save money, buy better equipment, and hire a part-time helper. I never bragged about it. I never dropped names. I just kept fixing what was broken. But the more I stayed in the same place, the faster Emma seemed to race ahead, at least on the surface. She posted about business conferences, promotions, and her perfect professional life. The more she climbed up, the smaller she seemed to think I was. I let her think that because I learned long ago that when someone wants to look down on you, it's not your job to correct them. Time has a way of setting things straight better than any argument ever could. I just didn't know how quickly that lesson would come. The thing about quiet success is that nobody really notices it at first. My shop wasn't flashy. It sat between a laundromat and a tailor shop in an old brick building on the east side of town. The sign outside was hand-painted and a little worn from the weather. Inside, the floor creaked and the coffee was always lukewarm, but it was mine. I built it up piece by piece. I fixed up old shelves, installed my own lights, and even added extra electrical outlets when I started handling bigger repair jobs. People came in for broken remote controls and left telling stories. I got to know their names, their grandchildren, and how their lives stopped when something important broke. I never advertised much. Word just spread naturally. Somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing myself as a failure. I woke up, worked with my hands, and paid my bills. I didn't owe anyone anything. Not a boss, not a committee, not a parent asking when I'd get a real job. I fixed things that mattered to people. Old radios that belonged to their grandparents. Fans that had been in families for decades. One client brought me a coffee machine her husband used every morning before he died. She cried when I gave it back working like new. Not because of the machine, but because it brought back something she thought was gone forever. That meant everything to me. On the business side, through our shipping partner, we started getting bigger contracts. Boxes of broken electronics, mostly from storage centers. We never got company names, just codes, invoice numbers, and serial numbers. Then one day, while filing a work order, I noticed something printed on a delivery slip, Sterling Tech Solutions. I stared at it for a long time. Victoria Sterling's company. I hadn't realized that my little shop was helping support her supply chain. It wasn't direct. We were probably the subcontractor of a subcontractor, but the devices kept coming. We fixed them on time and did good work, and they kept paying us. I never told Emma, not because I was hiding it, but because it wouldn't have mattered to her. Nothing I did ever mattered to her unless she could make fun of it. Meanwhile, she was rising fast. Promotions, speaking events, podcasts. She became one of those people who gives career advice online like she invented success. I saw her in an article once, smiling in front of a city skyline. The headline said, "Women to watch in tech." I watched her, all right. I watched her forget where we came from. Sometimes I wondered if she remembered that I was the one who taught her how to set up her first laptop. That I stayed up late reading financial aid forms so she could apply to college. That I took a job I didn't want so she wouldn't have to drop out when Dad lost his health insurance. But that's the thing about memory. People only keep the parts that make them feel proud or powerful. The older I got, the more I stopped needing anyone else's version of the truth. I had employees now. 2 part-timers, a retired electrician named Tom and a high school student named Alex who wanted to learn the trade. I paid them well and on time. They respected me. I ran my little shop with the kind of pride Emma wouldn't understand. We were never in the same room much anymore. Family holidays got smaller. Dad moved to Florida and stopped asking questions. I sent him birthday cards. He sent back photos of sunsets and peace. We were all just drifting apart. So when Emma called one afternoon and said, "You should come to our company party. It'll be fun," I was surprised. I asked, "Why me?" She laughed. "Why not? You never come to these things. It's time you met some people who might inspire you to step up your game a bit." That should have been a warning sign. But I said yes, not because I needed her approval, but because I had a feeling that time was about to set some things straight, and I was ready to let it happen. I showed up 10 minutes early. Emma's company had rented the rooftop of a fancy downtown building. The kind of place with string lights, expensive wine, and glass walls so you could see the whole city sparkling below. People floated around in expensive suits and designer shoes, laughing with the kind of practiced ease that comes from networking more than actually living. I wore a navy dress I'd owned for years. Clean, simple, nothing flashy. I did my makeup the way I always did, just enough to look awake. I brought a small gift bag for Emma with some locally made coffee she used to like when we were kids. A peace offering, maybe. When I walked in, she didn't notice me at first. She was surrounded by people, her voice the loudest in the group, hands moving as she talked, posture perfect. I stood off to the side, sipping club soda, watching her perform. Eventually, she spotted me. "Sarah," she said, getting everyone's attention. "You came." Heads turned and I felt it. That pause. That moment when a room evaluates someone and files them under, not important. Emma gestured toward me. "Everyone, this is my sister. She's in hardware repair." The way she said it was soft but deliberate, like she was giving me a label and daring me to correct it. I smiled. "I run a repair and restoration shop." One of her co-workers blinked. "Like for computers?" Emma laughed. "She's being modest. She can fix just about anything with a plug. She's like a walking warranty." People chuckled. I didn't. I nodded, still smiling. There was a sharp feeling in my chest, but I kept it buried. Emma wasn't finished. She turned to a man in a gray suit. "Mike, remember I told you about my sister? She's the one who fixed Mom's old blender instead of letting her buy a new one. I swear Sarah would rather fight technology than embrace it." More laughs. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because nothing I said would change anything in that moment. So I turned toward the food table, pretending to look at the appetizers. That's when the elevator dinged. The rooftop got quieter. Not silent, but still. The atmosphere shifted as Victoria Sterling stepped out. She wore a burgundy pantsuit, hair pulled back, face calm and confident. She had that presence, that energy that made people stand straighter when she walked by. People cleared a path naturally. She didn't pause. She didn't look around for Emma. She walked straight toward me. "Sarah," she said, holding out her hand. "I didn't expect to see you here." I shook it firmly. "Neither did I." Emma's voice behind me cracked. "You two know each other." Victoria turned. "Your sister is the reason our logistics team has been able to maintain a 98% equipment repair rate. You've been using her services for 2 years. I assumed you knew." The silence that followed was perfect. Emma blinked. I thought that was just some third-party contractor. It is, Victoria said. But Sarah's shop is the one they work with. She's solved problems our own team couldn't figure out. She turned back to me. We've never met in person, but your work speaks for itself. Thank you. Thank you, I said, my voice calm. People around us shifted uncomfortably. No more forced laughs, no more small talk. Emma stood frozen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. I just offered a polite smile because I wasn't there to win. I was there to witness the moment when Truth walked into the room wearing a pantsuit and a name tag. Victoria excused herself to greet other people, and I turned back toward the snack table. My soda hadn't even gotten warm in my hand. Emma approached slowly, her voice lower now. Why didn't you say anything? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Would it have made a difference? She didn't answer. And for once, that was enough. After that moment, something in the room changed. Not just for Emma, but for everyone. People who had ignored me earlier now came over with curious questions. They asked about my shop, the kind of work I did, how I got started. I answered simply, without showing off. The truth didn't need decoration. It just needed space to stand on its own. Victoria passed by again later, this time with a drink and a quieter tone. You've got a sharp eye, she said. I've looked at your repair reports. Your team solves things our engineers give up on. I respect that. I appreciate that, I said. I have good people working with me. She smiled, then leaned in slightly. I value precision and loyalty. If you ever want to work directly with us instead of through the middleman, let me know. She handed me a business card, sleek and expensive looking. I tucked it into my purse without looking at it. I'll think about it. She nodded and walked on. Emma stood about 10 feet away, watching. When I made eye contact with her, she didn't look away this time. I walked over slowly. No point in dragging it out. She was gripping her wine glass like it was keeping her steady. I didn't know, she said quietly. I know, I replied. She searched my face, maybe looking for anger or forgiveness or an opening. I didn't mean to embarrass you, she added. Yes, you did, I said. Not harsh, just factual. You just didn't expect it to backfire. She flinched a little. I let the silence stretch. Look, she said, I've worked hard to get where I am. You dropped everything and just gave up. I didn't understand it. No, I said calmly. You didn't look closely enough to try. She blinked. I didn't give up, I added. I rebuilt. She swallowed hard. I guess I always thought you quit. I nodded. A lot of people did. That's what happens when you don't pay attention. I didn't say it to hurt her. I said it because it was true. Sometimes people build stories about you using only the pieces that make them feel better about themselves. When you grow quietly, it confuses them. It threatens their idea of how the world should work. Emma glanced around, her voice barely a whisper. Did you come tonight to prove something? I actually laughed. Just once, quiet and short. No, I came because you asked me to. She looked down. I didn't push her. She was already carrying enough embarrassment for both of us. Honestly, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired. Sarah, she said, I really am sorry. I nodded. Good. Now do better. She nodded slowly. I could see her thinking. Whether she'd actually change or not, that was her journey, not mine. I said goodbye a little while later. No dramatic exit, no final shot, just a quiet farewell. As I rode the elevator down, I thought about Victoria's business card. I still hadn't looked at it. I didn't need it to mean anything more than it already had, because that night wasn't about opportunity or exposure or getting back at someone. It was about balance. About watching the scale tip back to where it should have been all along. People say revenge is sweet, but this wasn't revenge. It was just truth. Clear, unpolished, and long overdue. Sometimes that's more powerful than anything else. I didn't take Victoria's job offer. I still have her card. It's in a drawer at my shop, tucked under a stack of receipts and old instruction manuals. Every now and then, I look at it. Not because I regret saying no, but because it reminds me that I didn't need to be discovered to matter. Some people climb ladders. Others build solid ground. I chose the ground. My shop is still running, busier now. The exposure helped, sure. A few new clients came in because of the party, and word spread a little further. But that's not what I hold on to. What stays with me are the quiet wins. The 80-year-old man who brings me his late wife's antique mixer and thanks me with tears in his eyes. The single mother whose only laptop I brought back to life before her online finals. The teenage assistant I hired last summer who now wants to start his own mobile repair business. That's the legacy I care about. Emma and I talk more now. Carefully. Not like before. Not like sisters who shared secrets and braided each other's hair, but like people who are trying. People who've seen each other clearly for the first time and are still learning what that means. She hasn't mocked me since. Sometimes she even asks for advice. Small things, like budgeting or how to fix her thermostat. I answer, not because I need her validation, but because I've let go of needing anything from her at all. What I've learned more than anything is that respect doesn't come with applause. It comes in the quiet after people finally stop talking long enough to listen. I never raised my voice. I never corrected the room. I never shouted, "Look at me." But when the moment came and truth walked through the door, I didn't flinch. And neither did my worth, because it was never missing. Just underestimated. So if anyone ever asks what I do, I tell them the truth. I fix what's broken. And I don't just mean appliances.